Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Scifest Africa's first of many workshops in 2022. I'm Abongile Jago, and I will be your host for today as we will be making candles with Miss Marsha Kalika, who is the Chief Executive Officer for Outreach at the KwaZulu Natal Museum and a familiar face here at Scifest as she has been actively engaging on our scientific platform since 2018, and she has also scooped herself awards on the outreach category. You will find some of our workshops and webinars on our website, which is www.scifest.org.za. Please do engage with us in the comments section and by telling us your name and where you are watching from, also the name of your school, or any comment and questions, please do drop them down in the chat section if you are logging from Zoom. I will now hand over to you, Ms. Masha.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Marsha Kalika, and I'm the Chief Education Officer for Outreach. Okay. Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Marsha Kalika, and I'm the Chief Education Officer for Outreach. And I'd like to take a moment to thank Scifest Africa and the KwaZulu Natal Museum for providing this opportunity and allowing us to continuously engage as well as share our scientific knowledge with others. Today, we're going to be taking some time to explore candle making as we're going to use recycled or older candles and we're going to reuse them to basically make new candles. All right, so by reusing the old candles, we're going to have fun, we're going to be creative with colors and scents, reduce costs, but also make a positive impact on the environment. Because the best thing that you can do is to reduce the waste that you create. And the best way to reduce it is by recycling or reusing that waste. Okay, so just to quickly talk about candles, what are candles? So candles are really chunks of wax, all right? We know that wax is a hydrocarbon, so it's made from hydrogen and carbon atoms. And basically, you taking your wax and you putting a wick in the center of it, and that wick is ignitable. And when you ignite that wick, you create light and heat as well as water and smoke. All right, so we're going to now show you a few candles that I have in front of me. All right, so candles can be made from different types of wax. We've got beeswax, paraffin wax, soy wax, right? What I'm using at the moment is paraffin wax because they're inexpensive and they're cheap, right? And basically, I didn't go and buy any. I took all the old ones that I had in my cupboard and I'm going to reuse them. Okay, so how do candles work? First, I'm going to show you the science behind candles. All right, so we're going to light up the candle. Okay. Right, now if you look at this flame, you will notice that at the bottom of the flame, it burns blue. All right, and the top of the flame is yellow. So how does a candle work? How does it achieve that flame? It does it through a scientific process known as combustion. Okay, so what does combustion mean? Combustion means to burn, right? Very simply, when you take a match and you light your candle, your matchstick becomes your fuel source, right? You literally light the candle wick, which is in the center of the candle, and that creates a flame, right? The flame, which gets hot, starts to melt the hard wax around the wick. And as that wax begins to melt, the liquid wax is then drawn back up the wick, all right, through capillary action. Okay, so let's just go back and relight this. Okay, so we don't want you to go out. I want you to actually see the flame. Okay, so When the heat starts to burn away or melt the hard wax around the wick, that liquid wax will then be drawn up the wick through capillary action. When it reaches the top, the flame will then vaporize the liquid wax. What do I mean by vaporize? It turns it into. So remember we said that wax is made out of hydrocarbons. Okay, so that's a hydrogen and a carbon. Once that liquid wax gets vaporized, it will vaporize and it will return itself to a hydrogen and a carbon, which gets pulled through the flame. And when it reacts with the oxygen in the atmosphere, you then have combustion. Okay, so combustion is simply burning. That's all it means. All right, now something else happens. When this flame burns, you will notice that we have that dark blue at the bottom, okay? That dark blue at the bottom of the flame is the part of the flame that burns the cleanest, meaning there's enough oxygen at the bottom of the flame, so it burns the cleanest, right? The other part of it is that a byproduct called water, which is ideally water vapor, and it's basically a byproduct. In other words, steam is generated. It comes out of the blue part of the flame, right? The yellow part of the flame is a lot higher and burns yellow because there's less oxygen that reaches that part of the flame. And because of the less oxygen, you're not having full combustion, okay? So your flame is going to be yellow and it's going to release more smoke. So you've got the water that is being produced on the blue part of the flame, and that's because you have lots of oxygen. So the flame is burning cleanly. And at the top of the flame, you've got it yellow, and that's simply because you've got less oxygen, so less combustion, and that's where smoke is being made. So when a candle is lit, yes, it's giving you light because it illuminates places. It brightens up a dark room. But the candle is also releasing water in the form of water vapor or steam. It's also releasing heat where some is given up to the atmosphere, and the rest is used to continuously melt the wax around the wick. It's also giving up the colorless gas, carbon dioxide, and smoke, which is produced in the upper part of the flame, the yellow part of the flame. Now, if you've ever wondered why a candle flame has that particular shape, the candle flame has the shape because of the cycle of moving air. What do we know about moving air? Hot air rises, okay? So as the oxygen settles at the bottom, your cooler air starts to warm. Remember, your candle has got a flame, and flame provides heat. So the heat is warming up the air around the candle, meaning that the hot air will rise. And as that hot air rises, it creates the shape of the flame. As the hot air rises, more cool air and oxygen will gush in to the bottom of the flame to start warming again, and that air will rise again. So it's a constant cycle of warm air, of cold air coming in, warming and rising. And that gives the candle its shape. So the science behind your candle burning, or the flame that is being created, is the fact that you have combustion, okay? And combustion is created when your fuel or your wax reacts with the oxygen in the air to create the flame, okay? And yes, candles are very useful, okay? Candles, like we said, are used to light up a dark room. It's used for rituals. It's used in for certain traditional purposes. It can also be used just for ambience, more romantic ambience or aesthetic value. And some people even prefer the scented candles, right? But your candle will not burn if it doesn't have oxygen. So here's the candle burning, right? That's your flame. And when I block out the oxygen, whatever oxygen is there will be used up, and then the flame will go out. Okay, so that is the science behind your candle. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to move on to...
Hi, Marsha.
Yes?
A quick question from Lindelihle, who is watching from Facebook. The question is it true that smoke is also wax? So the smoke that is emitted by the candle also translate to wax. Is that true?
Not really. The smoke is actually an aerosol. So the smoke is unburnt carbon. And when it mixes with the steam from the candle, it produces soot. So that means wherever your candle has been burning, you will have sort of like blackish tints to your wall and your curtains. And that is because of the unburned particles of carbon that mix with the steam that is produced from the blue part of the candle or the blue part of the flame.
Thank you.
Anything?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so if we have to continue looking at the candles that I have here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some safety measures before we start making our candles. All right, so although candles are useful and they have several purposes and we understand their science, we have to know that we can never ever leave a candle unattended. Okay, a candle can never ever be left unattended. It needs to be kept far away from curtains, clothing, or anything else that can catch a light. All right. At the same time, you only use containers that are safe. So if you look at my table, I've got a tin. All right. It is heat resistant, so it is safe to burn a candle in it. Yes.
I would just like you to know I have already gotten all of my wax grated and everything, so I'm already set and everything.
That is absolutely excellent. That is excellent. So in the next few minutes, we're going to start making those candles. Thank you. All right. So like we said, before we get into that, we need to look at the containers that we have. All right. So we need to have heat resistant containers. If you want to use glass, I suggest you use something that is microwave friendly or oven friendly, because you don't want your candle sort of burst the glass. All right. So you can go with the tin. It's really great. I obviously love these enamel cups because they're very vintage. They give it an awesome look, but at the same time, they're heat resistant. So they work extremely well. Okay. And then here I've got a mason jar. So nice heat resistant glass that you could use to make a candle. And then I've got some little tin buckets. So pick something that's really heat resistant where you're not going to have a problem when your flame starts going. All right. And ideally, when you start looking at your wicks, you need to start looking at wicks that are not too long and not too short, because if your wick is too long, you can have a very long, large flame, and that's going to burn out your candle quicker. If you have a short wick, you're going to have your candle going off. All right, so your wick really, really determines the rate of that burning. You want a steady burn with less flickering. Okay, so on this side of my table, I've got some candles that I made last night. All right, so there's two ways you can go ahead and make these candles. This is the first method. I literally chopped up some old candles that I had. Okay, I removed the wick and I chopped up the old candles, and then I popped it into a pot on low heat. So it was like 2 or 3. And I left it there for about 5 minutes to sort of simmer, and it just sort of melted. And when it cooled a bit, I poured it into my enamel cup. All right. And I left it overnight, and this is the candle I created. Okay. This is awesome. So what I did here was I mixed all my colors. I mixed the blue and the yellow and the red with the white that I had. It's all the old bits of candle that I had left over. So I put it into a pot, I let it boil up nicely and melt down, and then I poured it into the enamel cup, which obviously holds heat really well. Okay. But before I poured it in, I added about 2 to 3 drops of tea tree oil. Okay. Now, why I'm saying this to you is because scented candles are excellent ways of getting rid of certain insects or helping you relax better, fall asleep. Okay. And depending on what you really want to achieve, you will then choose the oil that you want. So if you want a flowery scent, you'd go with maybe a rosemary or a lavender essential oil. If you were looking at a camphor sort of smell, very pungent, Yes.
Is the essential oil, do we need that, or is it just optional?
It's optional, my dear. It's optional, but if you want to create a great scented candle, then you can go ahead and you can use some essential oil.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So you want that essential oil if you want a scented candle. So if you want that pungent scent or fragrance, a tea tree would be perfect. If you wanted something floral, like I was saying, lavender would work very well. Something herbal, you could go with the sage essential oil, or you could very well go with what I've chosen. And what I've chosen has been citronella. Okay. And the reason I've chosen citronella is because I hate mosquitoes and I absolutely despise flies. And I wanted to get rid of the flies and the mosquitoes because the mosquitoes are constantly biting us in summer. So I decided to go with citronella. Now, if you know anything about citronella, citronella is an amazing oil that's extracted from two grasses, and it's got a very sort of grassy fragrance, but it's brilliant at repelling flying insects. So those mosquitoes, aphids, even your flies, okay, they just get rid of them. So they basically reduce their hunting skill, and so they can't actually find what they want. Within half an hour, the flies were gone and I didn't have any mosquito bites either. So the citronella oil works very, very, very well. I've decided to go with 3 candles. So this one worked out pretty well and I ended up making a tea tree candle. And on the top, you can see I just grated a little bit of candle wax. And then I wanted a lavender candle. So I literally took some of the wax and I melted it down in the pot. And I poured it into a heat-resistant glass container. And when that cooled after about half an hour, I poured the rest in with a little bit of lavender oil. I left it for about 3 hours and I popped it into the freezer, right? And after taking it out of the freezer, it just came out of the bottle. Simple, right? And then I decided to go ahead and try some of the lavender. And I thought, okay, well, then I'm going to add some lavender to the grated wax because I didn't want all of them to be made on the stove. I wanted some to have just the grated wax. So all I did was take some old wax, grate down the different colors. I added my essential oils and I made myself a really awesome lavender candle, right? Okay, so what you're going to do and what you're going to need for this particular task, because we're not going to melt it down using heat, we're going to use the grating option, all right? So all you need is a little bit of wax that's been grated. So in other words, your candles, your old candles, a knife, some crayons, okay? If you want some shimmer dust and essential oils, a nice little heat-resistant container for your candles, and a grater. Okay, so you're going to take your candle and using your knife. Are we all doing this? Okay, does everybody have their knives in their hands? Okay, very, very gently. You're not going to cut right through the candle. Okay, so you're just going to sort of slice it and rotate the candle a bit. Okay, turn it gently so that you just get a bit of it. Okay, and you're going to break it gently. Okay, now you're going to hold the 2 pieces and you're going to pull it apart so that you've still got the wick, but you've detached it from the piece of the wax. Okay, has everybody managed to do that? Has everybody managed to do that? Okay, all right. So all you're going to do is you're going to keep cutting. So take the next part of your candle, again, very gently, just a little line and go all the way around the candle. Okay, you need a flat surface to do this on. And then you're going to break it very gently, not to break the wick. Okay, hold it down and slide off the wax. So you've got the wick separated from the wax. Okay, now that you've got all your wax pieces, you're going to grate them down on the fine side of your grater. Okay, so we're just going to start grating down that candle. which is actually lots of fun to do. It's a bit messy, but it's lots of fun. Okay, let me know how you're doing. Okay, so we just keep grating the candle down. Right, and you can use different colors. So I think I'm going to use a little bit of white, and I think I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to that. All right. And if you want to use lots of colors, I suggest you do it in a glass container, because that way you can see the different colors. I'm using pretty standard colors because I'm going to use a tin that's not transparent. Okay, so we just keep grating that down. Okay, and then once you feel that you've got enough of your wax, okay, I've got some grated here as well. So I'm just going to add some blue to that. So now I've got a little bit of white, a little bit of blue and yellow. Okay. Just add all your wax in like that. Let's move this out of the way so everybody can see what's going on. Right. Can everybody see that? Okay. Grate your wax down. Okay. So that's nice and fine. All right. And now you might want to add some of your crayon. Okay, now you can decide how you want to do this. You can either grate down your crayon and add it as a layer to your candle, or you can grate down the crayon and you can add it to the actual wax that you've already grated. So I think I'm just going to mix it, right? Because you can't really see my layers because I'm using a non-transparent container. So I'm going to pick purple. Okay, so these are non-toxic wax crayons, and I'm going to grate down some of the purple crayon. Color to it, and I think I'll add a bit of green as well. Okay. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to mix that all together. Okay. I decided to work on a piece of paper because it's just easier that way, and I like getting my hands messed. Okay, there we go. Now you decide which essential oil you want to use, and that's where you don't have to put any essential oil if you don't want to. Okay, it's completely optional. But remember, scented candles have a unique purpose. If you're going to use the citronella, you know you're using it because you want to repel insects. If you're using lavender, you know you want to relax. If you're using sage, it's because you want that herbal surrounding. Okay, so different scents have different purposes. Okay, and in this case, I want to use the citronella. And the citronella, you ideally want to put about 3 drops to a cup. So 3 drops of citronella oil to about a 250 ml cup. Okay, so I'm just going to put in like a drop or 2 because it is really, really, really strong. Okay, and then you're just going to fold it in. And the reason you're doing this now is you can't add the essential oil when the flame is going. All right, so after you've lit your candle, you can't go now add essential oil. Essential oil is flammable. So you want to ideally add it so that it blends in with your wax, okay, prior to making your candle. Okay, and then all the wicks that you've got, you can reuse. So literally you can get a crimp and you can put it on. You don't even have to. Okay, you can even use some tape to hold it down, or mom or dad can just help you hold it down. So all I'm going to do is just hold it with my hand. Okay, so here's my little container, right? And I've got my little wick, a piece of wick that I got out of the candle, and I'm going to hold it down there. And I'm literally going to fill the candle flakes into the bucket. Okay. And when I see that the wick can hold itself or support itself, that's when you're going to use your fingers to press down the wax around the wick. Okay. And why are you doing that? Firstly, you want to compress it to hold the wick in place. But secondly, you want to make sure you remove the air spaces between the flakes, okay? Because when you light the candle, it's just going to sort of sink. You don't want it to sort of sink. You want it to be compacted. All right, and very importantly, You don't want a very long wick, okay, because it will burn out your candle too quickly. You don't want a too short wick, because then your candle will just die, okay, as soon as you light it. And at the same time, your wick must be center aligned. So it must be in the middle of the candle so that you can have an even burn. All right, so let's just continue filling in our wax. All right, and then I'm going to hold my wick up again, and I'm going to gently press around it. Okay. I'm going to add the rest of my wax with my crayons, and I love it because it's got a little bit of purple to it and a little bit of red. It's got the finer bits of different colors. Okay, squeeze that in and let it settle really great. Okay, and then I think I'm going to add some pink because I just want something different. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's add that in. All right, now that you've created your candle with the wick, you can see that that wick is really long and that's not going to burn very well. So you want to keep it about 1 centimeter above the surface of your candle. Okay, so we're just going to trim that very quickly. About 1 centimeter. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we've got ourselves a brilliant candle. Okay, can I see everybody else's candles? Let's see what you've done. Who's got some comments for us?
I'm melting my candle wax.
Are you melting yours? Excellent. Okay. What colors are you melting?
Let me show you.
All right, excellent. Oh, lovely. So you put your crayons in. That is absolutely awesome. You put white, so the crayons will give it that color. That is just amazing. Everyone just look at how awesome that is. All right, are you going to add in any essential oils, or you're not really wanting essential oils?
No, I don't want essential oils. I'm just going to have a plain candle.
All right, that is excellent. Excellent. I really, really want to see that when it's done, because that looks very interesting. Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Mom. Thank you so much for those comments. Anybody else that has got their candles going? Just so I can see what you've made. Who's decided to use some essential oils? I'm just interested to know what kind of essential oils you've chosen to use. Okay. Nobody else. All right. Okay, so here's your candle, all done. All right, and if you light your candle, it should light perfectly fine. Remember, when you're lighting a candle.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Well, and you?
Good, good, thank you. I've used lavender.
Lavender. Any particular reason why lavender?
I think lavender has a very nice smell to it, and
Definitely.
and it calms me down a bit.
Can I see your candle?
I haven't started it yet.
We're still busy with the grating.
Okay, all right. Okay, you've got a lot of grating to go. Definitely. But it's lots of fun, hey?
Yes, it is.
Lots of fun. Okay, so if you look at the candle, I'm going to hold the candle. Bye. I'm going to hold the candle that I've made up. Okay? Because once again, I just want you to see what I've done here. All right, so if you look at this candle, there's a few things you'll notice. Firstly, it's got a steady flame. All right? And when I say steady flame, I mean it's got a flame that's not flickering too much. All right? It's got the shape of the flame going up because of the cool air that's constantly coming to the bottom of the flame, right? With the oxygen, as that warms, that continuously goes up, leaving the shape, all right? At the same time, remember, this cannot burn on its own, all right? A candle doesn't just burn, it needs something to light it. So I had to give it a heat source, and give it some energy. That was the match, all right? And then it started the process of combustion. Okay, and the process of combustion is very, very simple. As that flame will start to burn away the wax or melt the wax around the wick, it will be drawn up through capillary action once again by the wick, all right? Breaking down or vaporizing it into a gas, okay? And that will react with the oxygen, creating the combustion. Okay, so there's a lot of interesting science around candles, and it's amazing when you understand how they actually work, all right? And remember, with the candle like this, there's no sinking. As you can see, there's no sinking, the flame is constant, and it's burning at a steady rate, okay? Also, with scented candles, I just want to let you guys know, if you're making scented candles, my advice is try, especially if you're using citronella, try to burn them at your door or on the porch, somewhere like that, because citronella can be a bit harsh in your lungs. So if you're working with citronella, it works best outdoors, and then your lavenders and stuff are pretty fine, all right? If your candle starts giving you too much of smoke, remember, it could be that your wick is really, really long and you've got a really high flame, and that's probably a reason why. So then just adjust your wick, okay? The 1 centimeter above works perfectly well. Okay, anybody else with questions? I think I'm just gonna add some shimmer dust to this, you know, because yeah, I do like candles that have a bit of
Could I quickly show you how my candle is going so far with the wax melting?
How is it going so far? How is it going so far? Oh, it's starting to, and look, it's getting blue.
Yeah, but the yellow hasn't melted yet, so that still has to melt. But I'm mixing
Okay.
it with a tiny fork here.
Yes, and you've got it on low heat there. That's looking really awesome. Okay,
yeah, I
that's
have it on.
That's looking really awesome. Okay, so all I've added here is a little bit of shimmer dust, okay, to the candle. Just so it's got a little bit of a glow or sparkle.
Hi, Marsha. So
Yes.
Lindelise is back on Facebook. So he has tried, he's actually watching from Makanda, Grahamstown, and he has tried to clarify his question. So he says the smoke after you blow out the candle, and not the smoke that is generated during the candle, when the candle light is on. And maybe, I guess his question is coming from the fact that, I don't know if you've ever tried it, if you were to switch off your candle, and whilst that smoke is still going up, if you were to put a lighter or light up the smoke, somehow the light drops all the way down to the candle. So I guess that's where his question is coming from. So the question is that smoke in any way, smoke after you blow out the candle, related to the wax?
Related to the wax?
Or is it wax in actual?
Is it wax?
Yes.
Okay, I suppose it is in a way, because remember that wax is a hydrocarbon and you are burning it. So technically you're burning that petroleum, okay? And that petroleum is the wax. The byproduct of petroleum is the wax, okay? In some candles, in other candles, you got beeswax or soy wax or palm wax or things like that. So yes, in a way, technically speaking, the smoke, which is coming from the yellow part of the flame, is actually the unburned carbon. So it is technically a small part of the unburned wax, I would say.
Okay.
That could be it. That could be it.
Yes, I guess he's listening and he's learning, or maybe he has the answer. So maybe he should type out what he has heard up on Facebook, and we will read it for the rest of the group in Zoom.
All right, I see we have another, but it's very important to note that you want a candle with a steady burn. I just want to say that, because if you don't have that steady burn and you have lots of smoke, that smoke is going to contribute to more of the blackening on your walls or your curtains or anything like that. So you don't want to have a candle that's burning at a very high flame. it's not ideal. All right, I see we have a comment. Do you always melt the wax in a pot on the stove before putting it into the mold or container? Or could you put the grated wax into the container and melt it in the oven on low heat? You could do either or. I'll be very honest with you. I actually took the aluminium cup and I melted the wax in the cup. So I literally put the wax into the cup and I melted it on the stove. Because it's totally heat resistant and it literally set in there. Obviously with glass, it's a bit different. You want to first warm it or melt it into something that's a bit more steel. And then when it cools a bit, you pour it into the glass. So it just depends what container you're working with. Okay, and can I see any more? Oh, I can see Peter is still on the stove. Anybody else? Any questions? Oh, Peter, that looks awesome. Yes, Sanako, you do well. There's a question here. Do you melt the wax and then put it into the container with the wick? Most definitely. So what you would do is you would melt the wax on the stove. Obviously, it's going to be very hot. So you want to leave it to cool for about a minute or two. And then you'd want to, if you want to, you could add your essential oils at that point. And then you would put the wick in. And as you put the wick in, you would pour your wax. What I suggest you do is at the top of your container, hold the wick with a peg. So the peg will run across the container and it will hold the wick above your container. So it will keep it in place.
I am now about to put some glitter in mine.
All right, you want to take it off the stove before you put the glitter, hey? So take it off the stove, let it just cool a bit. And once you pour it in, then you can put in your glitter, yeah. Because just remember that some glitter, guys, some glitter is a bit toxic. So you got to be careful what kind of glitter you're going to be using.
That's hot wax.
That's hot wax, and that looks really good.
It looks blue on the camera, but it's actually kind of greenish.
Because you've added yellow, you see, so yellow and blue.
No, before I added, when I added the yellow and blue, it actually turned out blue, but then I added some green. Now it's like a swampy green color.
Okay. Okay, well then I suppose it's going to look a bit like this, because you see this candle that I made here was a complete, yeah, it was like all the leftover colors that I had, and I put it into the pot and I got that green. So you can go ahead and play around with the colors. It's amazing what you can create.
Hi, Marsha.
Hi.
I have a question here. So you mentioned that there's beeswax, soy wax, and palm wax. Of those waxes, which one is the slowest burning and which one is the cleanest burning wax?
All right, so your beeswax will really come from sort of like your honey farming. So after your honey collection, you get the wax. Your beeswax is really your slowest burning wax, and your soy wax and beeswax are generally your cleanest burning wax. Okay, any other questions, comments?
Another question here, Marsha.
All right.
So which wax holds the most fragrance then?
That would be your more inexpensive waxes. So your paraffin waxes, like the one that I've used where I just sort of had them from the shop. those long normal ones, they generally hold the most amount of fragrance. And they're awesome to be used as scented candles.
Okay, and would you consider glitter to be safe to use in these candles?
Generally, glitter is safe. And if you're talking about like shimmer dust, it's absolutely safe. But there are certain types of glitter that's actually toxic. And so when you burn them, they can clog up the wick. So if you're going to use glitter, try and use those that are more like the shimmer dust, very, very fine glitter, and not too much of it, and you shouldn't have a problem.
I am now about to pour my candle wax into my into the container that I'm going to make the candle with this container.
Right. Okay. I see you've got a heat resistant. Okay. Be careful of the spills. Remember, candles can be dangerous with the liquid wax. They could burn your skin. I like the fact that you're using a pot that's got a nice funnel in the front, so you can pour it very easily. That is excellent. That is excellent. Can I make one suggestion there, Peter? When your candle cools, after it cools completely, pop it into the freezer. It will just harden the wax. And so if you do at any point want to take it out of that cup, it will just slip right out.
Okay, thank you. But I'm just going to, I have another container here that I'm going to pour the rest of my wax into.
Excellent. It's a heat resistant container.
Yes, it's this ceramic long cup.
Lovely.
I just need to get the candle, the wicks on to this here.
Correct.
So that I can pop it up.
Correct. So you can hold them in place. And remember, center align them, hey? So that you have even burning.
Oh, it's going to be a double, it's going to be a dual candle. So it will have two
That's
wicks.
fine. That's fine. You'll have even burning. That's perfect. And like 1 centimeter just above the surface of that candle. So it's not too long and not too short.
Okay, there we go.
Let's have a look. See, this looks very interesting. Look how clever that is with the wick. The wick can't go anywhere right now. All right, well done, Peter. That was absolutely awesome.
I still have some candle here.
Are you planning to melt those down, or you're going to make a grated candle?
I'm planning to later on, maybe tomorrow, melt it down and make another candle.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Now you see
one of my wicks filling.
What about the wicks?
No, one of my wicks in this candle filling, you can see it there.
Okay, well maybe just use your scissor and pull it out.
Yeah.
Just be careful, it's a bit hot.
There we go.
There we go. Well done. Well, you know, Peter's actually done a brilliant thing, because he's actually shown us how to make the candles using the heat as an option, right?
Oh. Wow.
Well done, Peter. But you see, this is the idea. The idea is to, and you know, I always say this, the biggest impact that you can make is to reduce the waste that you generate. So if you can reuse it, go ahead and do that.
I know, got these little pieces and chips that I'm going to just drop into this one.
That is excellent.
Extra pieces. But that was a lot easier than I thought that would be.
Was it was it as easy as you thought it would be?
No, it was easier.
Easier. Oh, well, that is excellent. So that means you would encourage everybody that has waste candles to not throw them away, but to reuse them, right?
Yeah. And this is the grater that I used to grate my candle.
Excellent. Excellent.
It's
Some hot
actually
water?
an older grater because you can see here it broke a bit.
Oh, yes, yeah. And just to say that you don't even have to really grate it if you're going to use the stove option. You could just cut up those pieces of candle and throw them into the pot. But grated is wonderful because it melts quicker, a little more evenly. And obviously, if you don't like the heat option, you can just go with the option of just grating and layering it in colors. And it still burns perfectly fine. It still burns perfectly fine. Any other questions?
This was the knife that I used to cut my candles. Very sharp, but yeah.
But easy enough, hey, when you pull them apart.
I'm going to now get this wax off of my scissors with this knife.
Okay, just be careful how you do that. All right, any other comments that we have? Anyone else that's done a candle that we can see, or you still grating?
Hi, Marsha. I have a question here, please.
Sure.
Catherine, also Catherine, I think there's a hand up there, physical hand up, so they can also unmute after maybe the question.
Yes, you can unmute.
Yep.
There we go. Hello, how are you?
Good.
How far did you get with your candle?
We close to done.
Excellent. Did you decide to grate or did you decide to melt it?
It wasn't working, so we just melted it.
Okay, you just melted it. All right.
Yeah.
And what did you use? Any essential oils, any glitter, maybe some crayons?
Yeah, we did some crayons and some essential oils, but we don't have any glitter, so no.
That's fine. What essential oil did you use?
Tea tree and lime tea tree oil and what else? Laps of lint. Relaxing.
Wow. And tell me, did you enjoy the activity?
Yeah, it's quite nice.
Okay. And did you learn how to make candles now? Do you think you're going to be really skilled in it? And how does your candle smell? How does your candle smell?
It smells nice.
Okay, maybe like a tree or like camphor or like, what does it smell like?
I don't know about like that.
Okay, as long as you've added the essential oil, you'll definitely have a scent.
Oh, Marsha, I just want to show you all the candle wicks that I have.
Sorry, Peter, I couldn't hear that. Repeat that for me.
I just want to show you all of the candle wicks I have from my candles.
All right, so you managed to get a lot of wicks, hey?
Yes.
All right, let's see. Oh, that's lovely. Now, if you really wanted to hold your candle wax down well, you could take those wicks and you get the crimps for jewelry. You could put a crimp at the end, so you've got a metal weight, and then you could actually hold it down better.
I've grated some more wax. I'm going to just bring my candle to make it a bit this swampish green. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Perfect. Perfect. So you're doing similar to what I did, where I made the candle and then I popped some grated bits on the top. I just wanted to experiment. And it burned just perfectly fine. Okay, anybody else that enjoyed it? Can I just see one more candle or one in progress? So I can see that everybody had a little bit of fun because you're all making such great candles.
Hi.
Hi, who's that?
Oh, we are Joanna, and one of us is still grating.
Okay. Oh, that is awesome.
And my older daughter's just stepped out, but this is her candle that she's done, and then this is Joanna's candle.
That is amazing. Do they add crayons in there or essential oils or?
Tell me about yours.
Well, I've done white at the top, and then I've done colors in the middle, and then white at the bottom again.
Oh, that is lovely. That is really lovely. And that is unique to you. Well done. Well done.
And I'm doing the same like Joe.
That sounds awesome. Absolutely awesome. Well done, guys. Well done, everybody. You did such amazing work.
Thanks. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
My pleasure. All right. And who is that?
Hi.
Hi, that's the stove. I see a stove melting. Have we decided to melt the candles?
Yes.
All right. And what color are you melting? It's like a bluish.
We're doing, I did a blue with some red to make like a kind of
Purplish.
purplish color.
All right. Okay,
And
that's
glitter.
awesome. Oh, you're going to add the lavender, right? So it's going to be purplish.
I've already added the lavender.
All right. Okay. And then you're going to pour it into your container.
Yes.
I'm quickly
You've
putting
gotten
my
very
candle
far.
in the freezer.
Okay, just let that simmer a little bit before you pour it in so it's not too hot.
Yeah.
But that's looking awesome.
I'm
Thank
quickly
you.
putting my candle in the freezer here so that it can cool down a bit faster.
Yes, if you put it into the freezer, it's going to cause the wax to get harder, and then it will just pop out of that cup.
Okay, there's the candle in there. Then we go get my second candle.
All right, that is excellent. Any other questions or comments or suggestions? They're also good. Suggestions are good.
I'm now holding it very carefully because this is very hot.
Yeah, you should let that cool a bit before you pop it into the freezer. Let that just
Okay,
sort of
but-
cool and solidify. And when it solidifies, it gets a bit hard, then you can pop it into the freezer.
Okay, it has solidified a little bit on the top.
Yes, it cools very quickly. I noticed that with the one I was working with. Yes. All right. Any
Sorry
other
about this.
questions? Any
Probably
other
if you hear
questions?
background noise. It's
Right.
just I just have some pet goats here.
Okay. All right. I just want to make one more suggestion. Hey, those who are making the candles on the stove, and by the way, you're doing an excellent job. When your candles cool, you can pop them into the freezer for about 10 to 20 minutes. Okay. All that's going to do is harden the wax so that your candle can pop out of the hole if you wanted to. But this is the really cool thing. By popping your candle into the freezer, it actually hardens the wax so that your candle melts slower. In other words, you'll have an economical burn, a very steady burn, so you can actually make your candle last longer. Okay, so it's a really great idea to pop it into the freezer once it cools for a few minutes. And I just want to say, alternatively, you can add salt, because if you add salt to your liquid, it'll do the same thing as popping it into.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Oh. Will the temperature crack the glass? Like if it's hot, then it's like cold.
If you're using a glass that's very thin, yes, but if you're using a heat resistant glass, and that is why you need to find a glass that you can put into the microwave or the oven, okay? Because that's heat resistant, it can hold really high temperature. Then when you put your cooler wax into it or your warm wax into it, it won't crack the glass.
Okay. Sorry, I just want to know, can you leave the candle out and it kind of hardens all by itself, or do we need to put it in the freezer if we did melt it over the stove?
All right, now after you've melted it over the stove and you've sort of poured it into the container, leave it for about 48 hours before you decide to burn it. You can leave it out, it's perfectly fine. It will settle.
Okay.
It's just if you want your candle to burn slower, in other words, you want the wax to last longer, or you want to take it out of that container, then you pop it into the freezer.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much.
Pleasure. It looks like everybody had lots of fun, hey?
Marsha, there's a
I
question
had
from
fun.
Cassia. It said, do we light the grated candles now to melt to the layer?
Yes, you can light the grated candles. You can light the wick that's above the candle, and it will burn just like how my one burnt. If you don't want to burn them and you've put essential oil and they just smell lovely and you just want to keep it as decoration, you could do that too. Any other questions, comments? Did we all have a really great time?
I had a fun time.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. That is really good news. And you've learned to do something really exciting out of waste, hey?
Yeah, and I'll also be here next week Friday for the compost.
Lovely. Oh, next week Friday, we're doing the plantable seed paper. So you can put the seed paper into the ground and it will grow. You can just pop the paper into the ground, which is really exciting. So next week, same time, same place. I'll be here. Abongile, any other questions that we might have?
None on my side, Marsha.
All right.
Okay, thank you so much, Marsha. That was very informative. And I can't wait to go and make my own candles this weekend. Okay, please check out our website and register for upcoming webinars and workshops. That's www.scifest.org.za, and invite all your friends and siblings on the 27th of January to register for the ESCOM Expo for Young Scientists Best Communicator Award winners for 2021, as they will be presenting their amazing projects with us next week. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you all enjoyed the session, and we hope to see you again, same time next week. Bye.
Bye.